I now call to order this March 3rd, 2021 public hearing. Before we begin, I invite you to rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now is the time that has been set aside for the deliberation and decision on an appeal by John Anderson of a determination made by the Department of Transportation and Development related to a request to use a certain utility and all-terrain vehicle on public roadways under the county's jurisdiction. This is a continuation of a public hearing that was held on February 3rd, 2021. At that hearing, the board provided an opportunity for public testimony. The board then left the record open for an additional 3 weeks to allow anyone to submit any additional testimony for the board's consideration. The board has been provided all of the materials submitted during that time. The purpose of today's hearing is to allow the board an opportunity to deliberate and make a decision. The record in this matter has been closed, and public testimony will not be permitted unless the board wishes to hear from staff or a particular party. Assisting us in the hearing today is our clerk, Christina Terwilliger, ADA Title II Compliance Officer, Martine Koblenz, and Assistant County Counsels, Sarah Foreman and Nate Boderman, who is in the room today. In attendance today are also representatives from the Department of Transportation and Development. We will now begin the hearing with a short statement by staff.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
So first off, just a couple housekeeping matters. I just want to take a moment to give the board an opportunity to disclose any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest or bias that you might have that might influence your ability to make an impartial decision here today. Because we had that gap in between the two hearings, it's appropriate to do so. So if anybody has any declarations to make, go ahead and put those on the record if you wish to do so.
I have not.
Seeing none.
Commissioner?
Oh.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Nate Boderman, gosh, now I can't remember, about a week ago, a week and a half ago?
Last week, yeah.
Last week, and asked the question that I was wondering about, which was, in doing an analysis, it was my understanding that we would know if there was a qualifying disability, but in the information that was provided to us in the record, I did not see any evidence of a qualifying disability to then take us into the analysis for the Americans with Disabilities Act. And Nate had told me that there was not that in the record, that wasn't part of it. And so then I asked Nate, would it be appropriate for me to call Mr. Anderson and have a conversation to determine, just to find out about that. And Nate said, in this, I believe, I don't want to speak for you, but in this circumstance, it could be considered an ex parte contact, that I should disclose it, but that in this circumstance, if that's information that I wanted to have, that would most likely be acceptable thing to do. So I actually had a conversation with Mr. Anderson in my office, very quick conversation, and asked him that question, and instead of me relaying that to everyone, I just think it's probably important for us to talk about. So I would suggest, Chair Smith, that we allow Mr. Anderson the ability to just explain the nature of his disability to all of us.
I will take that under advisement, but we're going to continue with the ex parte communication.
Yeah, well, that wasn't ex parte communication.
I'm continuing with the rest of the board members, and I will take it under advisement. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Scholl, any ex parte?
I have none.
Commissioner Savas?
I have none.
Commissioner Schrader?
I have none.
I spoke to the sheriff's office and patrol people regarding the safety of the roads where this would be used, is what I did. Okay. Nate, what is the situation about allowing Mr. Anderson to come forward and relate his disability when he had ample hours to do so at our previous hearing?
Well, it's your prerogative whether you want to reopen the record or not. And so you have provided an opportunity to introduce evidence, testimony, so on. And so you're under no obligation to do so. You may, however. That's up to the discretion of the board.
And he had an opportunity to discuss his qualifying disability at the last hearing, and he did not do so. So I assume that was not something that he wanted us to consider.
I don't want to speak for Mr. Anderson, but he certainly had the opportunity to put what he wanted into the record.
So what I'm going to do is, Mr. Anderson, you get 2 minutes to explain your qualifying disability. However, the record has been closed, and I will remind you that you had ample opportunity last time at a 2-hour hearing to state your qualifying disability. Now you choose to do so. Would you like to come to the dais?
Absolutely. Okay. And Chair Smith, just to clarify for the record that this is not mandatory, this is this is at Mr. Anderson's option, if he would like to
I'm allowing
provide
him the
that.
courtesy, absolutely.
Just to clarify.
I'm offering him a 2-minute courtesy after the record has been closed. Would you like to come up? You come up to the dais, please.
Commissioner Savas has his hand raised.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I've had my hand raised a little bit before you offered that opportunity, Mr. Anderson. I think it's important to state, and I'd like to hear our legal counsel's opinion on this, but I don't think the matter before us is Mr. Anderson's disability or not. I think the issue at hand has been the vehicle or the vehicles being used for that particular purpose, and whether or not it's safe for anyone with those kinds of vehicles or the public in general traveling on the highway. It's been more of an equipment highway discussion, and I really appreciated that. That's really been our focus. I'm kind of concerned about shifting the focus to the disability itself when that's really not the issue here before us.
Mr. Savas, I agree with 100%. I'm going to ask the board not to take his qualifying disability regarding our decision. However, he has asked, and I'm going to allow him 2 minutes. And I'm stating for the record, you had ample opportunity on the February 3rd hearing to do so, and you did not. Is there a reason why you want to state your disability today?
Well, I think it should be known that I'm disabled. Nobody ever asked me.
No, but sir, it's not us to ask you what the disability is.
Well, that's why I'm here. This is what this is all
Okay,
about.
your 2 minutes are on, go.
And I'm going. This is what it's all about, is if I'm disabled. That's it. I suffer from chronic degenerative knee disease. I have disabilities. Why nobody asked me in almost a year if I was disabled, I will never know. Because that's what the law is all about, is how to accommodate disabled people in America. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, I appreciate that. Any further discussion by commissioners? Commissioner Savas, would you like to elaborate any further?
No, I think the materials that are in the packet related to the equipment, the road, the safety issues at hand are the relevant factors in this. It is not per se the disability itself. Granted, it's an ADA, Americans for Disability Act issue that we're here today. I just presumed, I'm not challenging, I just presumed that is authentic. I'm not questioning that whatsoever. Simply, this is not the issue about Mr. Anderson's or his capabilities or not. The issue is really the safety of the vehicle on the highway use, and are allowing or not allowing that type of situation to put anyone at harm. Thank you.
I believe the question that was, Nate, if I'm clear, the question that's presented to us in the determination of a decision on this hearing was to allow his vehicle on county roads, and he is citing the American disability. So our consideration is his vehicle, not so much his prevailing disability, correct?
True. There are multiple layers to the analysis, however. You don't get to make a claim under the Americans with Disabilities Act unless you have a qualifying disability. The reason why we have not necessarily pursued a question about the specific disability in question is, and I think Commissioner Savas summarized this accurately, that we have proceeded giving the benefit of the doubt and assuming that it is a qualifying disability without getting into the nature of it, because our analysis really focused on the vehicle, the safety, and we were able to, I think, make a fair and comprehensive analysis based on other factors outside of the disability. But you, again, I guess to the threshold question, you don't even get to make a claim under ADA unless you do have a qualifying disability. So if this had been a closer call, perhaps we would have gotten into that portion of the analysis, but we didn't need to reach it.
Thank you. Any other commissioners with comments? Well, I'm going to ask for a motion to deny the request as recommended by staff.
So moved.
Commissioner Scholl has made the motion to deny the request. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Schrader has seconded. Do we have any other comments or questions by commissioners?
Chair Smith.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, and my motion was based on, I have no question about the issue regarding Mr. Anderson's disability, but I'm very concerned about his safety. I recall if this was to be approved, he wanted to use his vehicle on county roads day and night with no exception. And I'm concerned about if it was approved, it would cause a precedence in the county that would be a big safety issue. So again, today, my concern is with the safety of Mr. Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I would add not just Mr. Anderson. I think it is a hazard for other drivers on the road, particularly Henrici and those busy rural highways, essentially, that we have. So it isn't, for me, it isn't about denying someone something, but to me, it's a larger public safety issue. And I would encourage Mr. Anderson to speak with some of our folks who work with people with disabilities to see if there is another way that he can move. Perhaps, I don't know, evidently he does have access to a car, but maybe that is a conversation with our human services staff to really see what else can be done to help him increase his mobility in a safer way. So that would be my suggestion. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Any other comments from commissioners?
Yeah,
Savas has his hand
Commissioner, our Chair Smith,
Go ahead.
I would, I think it's important for this hearing, because we didn't really discuss it yet today, but we did at the last hearing, that the issue at hand for anyone who's watching and didn't see the previous hearing is that the request, I think, is really about whether two off-road vehicles in which have been identified can be safely operated on the highway, which has a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, has areas where there is no safe shoulder for refuge, if you will, to pull over or anything else like that. So the issue at hand is that could cause someone to swerve out of the way, possibly into the lane of opposing traffic, and possibly cause a head-on collision. It could cause an accident to the operator, in this case, perhaps Mr. Anderson. But this is broadly about the safety of the road. It's a 55-mile-an-hour road. These vehicles, smaller vehicles, are harder to see, line of sight. The ability to accelerate, the ability to brake, the ability to be seen at that particular speed on that particular road is really, I think, really the issue. So I just want to explain that for anyone who's watching just this hearing and not had the opportunity to hear the detail of the prior hearing. Thank you. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Savas. I just want to say we have received additional information and photos provided to us by Mr. Anderson. And I want to say something to Mr. Anderson before this vote today, in that this is a request that I have taken to heart. I have considered it deeply.
Not as deeply as I have.
And, sir, you're out of line. You're out of line, sir. And I have talked to our safety personnel, I have talked to our sheriff's patrol, and this particular area where you want to drive is rated 3 to 4 times more dangerous than other county roads.
What area do you want us to drive on?
Sir, you have that information.
There's no indications where that somebody will use a mobility device.
And you're additionally out of order, sir. Let me finish. I never interrupted you, not once. You will afford me the same respect and courtesy.
And you will afford me the same rights that others will afford that are not disabled.
Call the poll.
Okay. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye. Motion passes.